Hello and welcome to Pickle's Garage. Today we're working on the 2007 328i BMW, specifically on the VVT or the variable valve train solenoid. I've also heard it called a Valvetronic motor, but essentially the issues that you're going to experience when this is going bad is poor fuel consumption, bad acceleration, under power, rough idle. It might kind of smell more fuely just in general. Essentially what it does is it is making adjustments to your valve train to sort of help with fuel efficiency, to help with power at the right times. And so when it is not performing properly, then you can have all these issues. You can also hear like a ticking or a knock sound. And so just in general, not good. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and get this replaced.
So the location is actually right here, so it seems like it's pretty close, especially if you only have one bolt for your plastic engine cover. But I would say, just to kind of get to everything that you need to remove in order to get better access to it, you're going to want to go ahead and remove all this top hood and everything. So it can be a little involved, but it's going to save you some time. Now, you're going to want to remove this first. Mine's all broken, so it is kind of hard to give you an example of how to remove it properly, because clearly the person before me didn't, and now I don't really have a good example. But essentially, you're going to see this plastic piece, and you're going to want to lift it up with a screwdriver and sort of get it pulled out straight. And then once you do that, you'll see this coil behind here. And if you get a screwdriver right here, you see how there's two tabs. You're just going to get the plastic past those, pull that down. There's going to be 3 of these, and then that will get this coiled wires out of the way as well. So once you get that dangling, then we're going to go ahead and remove our cabin air filter, which is here. It's going to be size 8mm. There's going to be 4 of those, and then we'll set that aside and we'll get to the next part, which is removing this. Okay, so with the air filter removed, we're going to remove these panels here. They just have these plastic sort of tabs that you have to lift up, and then this will get set aside, and that will expose these size 8mm screws. And then there should be like a grommet thing that goes right here and holds this down, but mine is missing. So we'll go ahead and get this removed. So it's going to help to get this bar out of the way. So this is going to be size 12 metric, and then right up here is going to be size 14. And it sort of like forks like this underneath it, so you just have to get it loose and then completely remove this one, and then you'll be able to kind of pull it this direction and get it out of the way for us. Okay, now that we have this cover off, we're going to go ahead and take off the engine cover. Now, hopefully yours has more than just one, but they should be easy to find, even though I only have the one. So it looks like 3, but our VVT is going to be right under here, so we need to get this off. Don't have to worry about opening this or anything. It'll only be held on with this, and it is going to be this. It's going to be, let's see, CRV5, so it's just going to have that focus, but you'll be able to see the size right there, or the shape. So we'll go ahead and get those removed. So right here is going to be your VVT. This is what we're removing. So there's a couple different things in the way that will make this repair a little bit more difficult if we don't move it. And so what I recommend, you might be able to get to some stuff, but what I recommend is let's move this plastic rail out of the way. And so you can use kind of your fingernail or a screwdriver just to pinch this little tab down right here, and then that will lift these up. And then if you have enough leash, you can kind of move it a little bit, but we're going to have to remove all of these plugs here. So just stay organized. They should only be able to go far enough to the plug that they're assigned to, but they're really easy to remove. You just have to lift this tab like this, and it kind of pushes the plug out, and then you just have to pull it back. See how I did that? So pretty easy there. So we'll go ahead and get these all removed. And then there's also going to be these grounds right here. Those are going to be 8mm. You just got to remove the nut, lift these off, and then like I said, we'll go ahead and get the rail out of the way, and then we'll do this plug. So the plug, simple enough. There's tabs right here. You just have to pinch on both sides and then pull that straight back, and then we'll get exposure to the nuts that we have to go ahead and take off, or the bolts rather, actually. Now to remove the VVT here, there's going to be a bolt on this side right here, and it's going to be 1/4, and then there's going to be another one on the far side, also 1/4, and then I already got this one removed, but that is also going to be 1/4. Just using a basic extension, just like one of your small ones, you should be able to get to it and then get to those two, but we're going to just get rid of all those three, and then that should go ahead and pull this old one for us. So here's the old one out, and you'll notice when you get a little closer that there's actually several notches taken out on both sides. So that's going to be that ticking, knocking sound as it kind of fighting itself. So it's good to replace this. We're going to go ahead and get the new one in now, but if you see this on yours, it's a good indicator that yours was also faulty. So let's throw the new one in. Okay, once again, our Dorman 910885, we're going to go ahead and get this put in position. So remember where the gasket goes, it does go in a very specific order, so if you had to move it for whatever reason, make sure it goes back just like that. But we're just going to go ahead, slide this into place. Like I said, getting rid of this rail and then removing these just makes it a little easier to get lined up, but I'm still probably going to need 2 hands to do the final touches, but you'll see it's more or less in now. So we'll just make sure that this ends up getting lined up once it's fully in place, and then we can replace those other parts. So let me get this lined up, and then we'll start putting it all back together. Okay, so getting it back in, basically I just focused on these ones first. Naturally, I got these started. They're not fully snug, but just so the gasket wouldn't swim around on me. But this is size 1/4, and so I just did these alternate, go back and forth so it presses in evenly, and then the last one I'll do is this bottom one here. Alright, so now that we got the 1, 2, 3 back in place with our gasket here firmly in place as well, not going anywhere, so we're going to go ahead and start reconnecting all of these pieces. Don't forget these, your grounds. Make sure there's one there and there's one here. So obviously it was important to get that leash, but you want to make sure you put everything back. So I'll start reassembling things and I'll go over what I did as a reminder. Okay, so what you do is you go ahead and pop this plug back in. We're going to slide the rail back into the housing. If your tabs aren't broken, it should click into place. And then as a reminder, you just have to push these in, and then this will go ahead and grab it. Make sure they're all secure down in place as well. And then this one, just make sure you're going at it at an angle. It will push past this. You don't have to make sure this is in, but I would recommend maybe doing the plug in first and then going ahead and pushing it in place. But it might fight you a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. And then again, don't forget your ground here. That's 8mm, that nut right there. So 1 and then 2. And so that puts all this back in place, and then we'll just do the finishing touches here before we wrap. Alright, so we got our engine cover back on. Again, hopefully you have more than just one, but we're going to go ahead and now get to the rest of the pieces here. And then we're going to be replacing this big thing right here, which is only held on by a couple of these in the front. So those are 8mm once again. It's going to look exactly like this on the other side. And then you should have a sort of rubber thing that goes in between that, pinches it. Mine's missing, but then you'll go ahead, place this cap back on, and then we'll put the air filter on. And then the last bit is just going to be replacing those 4 8mm screws for our airbox, and then just kind of clipping this back into place so it's not wiggling around. But that is it. So thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.